All right, Sunday, May 3rd, about 5:08 outside, 57 degrees, sunny. Looks like another cold and potentially rainy week. We're going to take a look at it. We're trapped in the endless cycle of bloom, moving into a part of the period where you could beginning to think about using your single site fungicides a little more readily. Particularly if you had a lot of the rain that we encountered in the last week, it might have been a good time to think about using one of them. What do we have in these types of groups? And you can kind of go back and see my original logic. You have Sillet and Vanguard and Scala. You can use these on Long Island. And they're very good against apple scab. That's why I was pushing these single sites earlier on. The other ones, they all do scab pretty well. But you can see the strength of some of the group 11s, powdery mildew, summer diseases. That's coming up, and that's starting to happen now, depending on where you are. A lot of the Bayer products can't be used on Long Island. Maybe they've changed it. Who knows? Maybe I'll take a look at the labels again. But the Syngenta products can. The group 7's great on scab, great on summer diseases. Not a lot of good options for powdery mildew. If it gets away from you, it can be kind of trouble. It's where something like Sevian Rhyme or Rally, if you have that one, can really come in there. The group 3s are decent on powdery mildew. Sometimes I flip-flop around on how strong these are. Sevia behaves a little more like Inspire Super in terms of its strength, and it also has a group 9 in it. So if you use one of these, you've used one of your earlier applications as well. A lot of the group 3s are great against rusts, and now I think it's probably getting close to rust time. So you can consider using those if you have a big rain event. And we're going to see what it looks like for the week at Scab. And then, of course, I put the group 52 in there. Pretty good on powdery mildew, pretty good on apple scab. And now you've got one more group you can rotate in. And we've had a lot of these greater than 15% ascospore ejections, depending on where you are, or 5 days of rain. And I think we're getting closer to the end of the Scala Vanguard dodine window, but you know why we recommend it now. Great on apple scab, not so great on the rusts and mildews and other things later on. And then I think many instances we'll be coming into a situation where we finally get our first less than 15% ejection. Time to pick back up with your Captan, your biopesticides. You could use these in these light periods. I'll be using some of those in our fields this week as well. And then, of course, your organic. Push the sulfur, microthiol, pretty good. Don't put it with oil or anything. You might end up thinning your crop. I don't think we have a really hot day. We do have cold days, but not really hot days. You pick a median temperature day if you want to do that. And then if it's a light week, pick your biopesticide of choice in that particular instance. Now, if we're going into petal fall and second cover, I'll go ahead and give my brief spiel what I recommend here. When you get the big days, 5 days, 1.5 inches of rain, this is where we're going to lean on these people. And we already leaned on them maybe a little bit last week. And you can see I've sort of color-coded them to match what they're good on. 7, Miravis, as an example. These are just examples. All the ones in the chart will work. 7, Miravis, Apple Scab. 11, Flint Extra, Powdery Mildew. The Sevia is going to squish your rust into oblivion, and it's going to do scab and some of the other things as well. Axios, we don't really know what its specialty is, but it does seem to be pretty good on a lot of different things. I don't really have a chance to test it against cedar apple rust, so we don't know. And then, of course, the other thing that you're going to grab out of this, if you end up having the apple blotch, dipocarpin, formerly known as Marcinina, or any fly speck pseudoblotch inoculum and rots, it's going to get all of that type of stuff as well. And of course, in this particular instance, we've already talked about what that is. And then if you get into the later season with your organic, it might be time to consider one of these other products now that we're starting to move into the I need a material that's going to get a bunch of different diseases and be very potent, like the Oso and the Howler. So it's a different mode of action with the Pseudomonas and some of the others. And then, of course, organic sulfur. It's not too bad. Don't let it get too hot. If it gets over 85 degrees, you can get a little injury with sulfur. And then less than that, back to our liquid biopesticides as well. Taking a look at what fire blight is, it's not a bad week for fire blight. We've already passed the pre-bloom pink period, and we're into the put on a systemic acquired resistance inducer or defense inducer, and now we're into the antibiotics and biologicals. What are we going to put on? That type of stuff as well. And of course, if you're in the organic world, you just have a couple natural defense inducers, and you have a lot of really great biologicals, and then maybe some more natural defense inducers as we're going on. Strep resistance is still fairly rare for the most part. Yeah, it's in New York. It's in a couple of different places. But unless you've had it, then you can keep using it. You can rotate something in. You can do kasugamycin. You can pick a biological if you want. There are some options as well. But if you don't have any problems with strep, or no one does in your region, then I just go ahead and use it while we're allowed to. What can work just as well is the Blossom Protect Ario Basidium. It's the organic, non-antibiotic option. Looks great. And then we've got the Bloom Time Live, Pantoia Agglomerants as well. That's coming up in the future. I like to just sort of get that out there. These both work by competing. Blossom Protect has been shown to have a really strong mechanism of defense induction inside the floral cup, which sort of locking out some of the fire blight. It doesn't make the bacteria go away. They're still there after a week, but it works very well, to say the least. But it does really cover that flower. And then, of course, I'm going to put these things on. You want to go on a little bit earlier before the wedding event. If it gets 60 to 100, you want to give these a little time to build up. And then, if it rains a lot, reapply them again. And then we're going to end there, and we're going to jump right into the forecast business. Let's sort of move that out of the way. And we'll take a look at our first location in Riverhead, Geneva. I'm not Riverhead, Geneva. Riverhead, Long Island. Yeah, all the places where you can't use those products. And we're looking at fire blight. I think it's going to be an easy week. Nothing to stay alarmed. I know you're going to see flowers on the trees. It's going to cause some concern, but the conditions are so weak given all the cold weather we've had. Really shouldn't worry about it. When we come back to looking at Riverhead and Scab, well, we're looking today. Oh, it looks like they have a big one for a change. You know what? You're probably far enough along on Long Island, I would like to think, to be deep into the bloom or late bloom period. And so maybe you should use one of these particular products. If you have rust, use a bit of the group 3 fungicides. And if you have powdery mildew, stick a group 11. It's a big enough event, 40% ejection. This is a big one. I would go into the week like, Monday or Tuesday, and just put that thing on and see how we're doing. All right, let's swap around. I want to go look at the Hudson Valley and see how they're doing. Boop. Gosh, nope. Going back, Hudson Valley. Oh, it's dead. Wow. We'll do Campbell Hall. Walden seems to be down for the moment. 12%, sort of in the middle. You're close to the end of things. I don't know if I would use up one of my fancy products for this rain event. I would save them for big something nasty that comes by later. Maybe you've already used some, and you might want to save some stuff for the summer. 36 hours of leaf wetness, 99% maturity, and the last 12 of all the mature spores that are remaining, that 86 to 97 jumps up and will happen in this event. This is the last one of the season. At the same time, you're like, I got a lot of single sites left. You can go ahead and apply one for this. But in this case, I would just do Cap 10 Menzate while you have the opportunity to apply it before the 77-day PHI. So let's check Valley here. And Fire Blight. I'm moving into some high weather. Yeah. Let's take a look at the. I want to take a look at the Cougar Blight risk table area and see how we're looking over the season thus far. Well, you had the big one right at the beginning, and now with this such a weak sauce period and coming up, I mean, you could get by with a biological on this without a doubt. And if you're almost done and you're really approaching the late petal fall, we had a couple flowers left. You could put strap on, but all the models are saying we're not even hitting 100 EIP. I would wait this one out, and you do have some rain coming. But if you were concerned, just go on Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday and then just let it have it. And no fire blight would ever survive a strep application with this low level of intensity. Let's look at Voorheesville, see how they're doing today. Voorheesville, same sort of situation as the Hudson Valley. You got a hot spike on the Cougar Blight, but it's getting so cold at night, the average temperature is not getting that high. They are accumulating the heat hours, but they're dropping back down to almost no risk whatsoever. And you do have a little bit of rain coming up on May 6th, 12 hours, but it's not so much. Yeah, you can protect them if you want, but you might not need it. You could probably get by with little to nothing. It does seem very scary to not protect your crop when they're in bloom from fire blight, but if you get it, it'll be shoot blight later. Oh, goodness gracious, Voorheesville. Yeah, you're coming to your end. You have double 23s. Wait, that's on the 5th. That means probably, I'm guessing, Tuesday night, the rain comes and drops your last cumulative ascospore discharge from 44 to 67, bringing you up to almost the end of the season with a big event on the 6th. I'm guessing that May 5th, ejection of 23% probably happens right in the Tuesday evening to cause you a bit of trouble. All right, and that is in good shape for that. I mean, you can use the hammer on this. You're into the season. You got powdery mildew to deal with, maybe some cedar apple rust. If you have powdery mildew, group 11. If you have cedar apple rust, group 3. And go at it and squish the last bit of that apple scab. But, maybe make sure you do it Tuesday morning or Monday night. Hey, let's see how Chazy's doing. I have it. Cheesy, how are we doing? Scab, no, you're rocking it. You're in a bunch of infection periods, but the ejection is so low that you don't need to worry about it. In this particular instance, you got like a third of an inch of rain. If you wanted to, you can just maintain your normal fungicide coverage. I'd go in tomorrow as long as you can drive in the orchards and put it out there. Yeah, you've had an infection period on the 5th and 6th, and you had one on the 2nd and 3rd. You could go and just recover. No need to do anything sporadic or wild. You still have a lot of apple scab season left to go. So I would just do a basic coverage spray. I want to look at fire blight. I have seen oozing orchards in the capital districts or up in this area. It should not be in bloom. But even if you were, I don't think we would have any cause for alarm. It's so cold. You're hitting everything, but those nightly temperatures are dropping the risk back down to nothing. You have an EIP of 17. Really, really low, really low risk in this particular instance. If you have something like active oozing cankers, for goodness sakes, see if you can squeeze on a copper, but don't do it if the temperatures get too cold. I guess I would just put on maybe a biopesticide in this case, get a little bit of scab control, and wipe out any fire blight ooze you see on the surface of your tissues. Yeah, if it's not going to be freezing, what does it look like? It's going to be 46, 52. Yeah, you could probably do a copper on the 52 day, and you'd be fine if you had oozing canker and needed to blow it out. And maybe something light like a Quava, 2 quarts. Don't do the 3 quart rate. It's very expensive, and you don't need a lot of extra stuff. Let's take a look at Interlaken and see how they look. Same thing as everybody else. There's like the first bit of orange bars that we're seeing on a Mary Blight infection predictions on the EIP, but still it's a 26. It's not enough to actually have any inoculum potential. And in this case, if you are doing biopesticides, it should do both of your fire blight and your apple scab concern for the week, probably because it's pretty light. We're going to see what apple scab looks like in Interlaken. You can kind of come in here and put something on, but it's not a big event. It's a 6%. Just means maintain coverage. If you're an organic, you got both of them covered with your regular whatever biopesticide you're using. And if you're conventional, you could use a biopesticide and get both your fire blight and your apple scab on the same day. The fungicides don't do it, but a lot of the biologicals have sort of broad spectrum, but very safe natural activity, and then they'll kind of beat them both types of organisms down. Fungicides are very specific and usually really after fungi and sometimes insects, just in case you're curious. All right, let's go to Williamson, see how they're doing today. Let's head up into the SOTUS region. Goodness gracious, Williamson never gets a break. They have another 13 coming up on May 5th. It's not a big one, 15, almost up to 15. In this case, given Williamson's struggle and trouble so much with apple scab, I might go ahead, considering you're at the end of the season, 85, 83, and go ahead and use up one of my single sites, mainly because you're coming off of this May 1st through 3rd massive wedding event that just lasted forever, and you got one day tomorrow to deal with it, and you're going into the rest of the week with a little bit more, and I would love to hope this would all end. You could use up one now, particularly if you have powdery mildew or rust issues. Pick one of those two materials. Powdery mildews, the 11s, the rusts are the 3s. And yeah, I mean, you can do an Inspire Super in here and do probably pretty well for yourself, unless you have a lot of mildew problems. And I would go with a group 11 type material. Anything with a group 11 or a 711, but you lose 2 groups in that particular case. Let's see, Williamson, I want to see what their fire blight looks like. It can't be much. I just feel like it's a pretty weak week. No, it's like a 0 EIP. You're going to see flowers on trees. You're going to be really tempted to spray them, but I mean, if you don't, then you're going to save a bunch of money. If you get fire blight later on, it will probably not be from this event. I could go out there with fire blight on a paste and try to cram it into the blossoms by hand, and I couldn't get the dumb thing to kill them. At least in Geneva. Or anywhere else with this type of weather scenario. I want to go ahead and take a look at Appleton North. The fire blight's the same thing. It's so weak. I panic when I see all the blossoms on the trees. Like, we do the fire blight trial now. Every time I've done something like that when I was a child, it just never worked. You can't get that stuff to infect under these types of conditions where it's just zero EIP, zero cougar blight rest. You got water, you just don't have the heat to make that thing move. Now I want to go see what Appleton looks like for its apple scab as well. And I know the same thing is pretty much the Sodus area, except you're not coming in after a really nasty period. If you struggled with powdery mildew because you're along the lake, you could use up one of your Group 11s in any one of the Group 11 products at this point in time. You're kind of close to the end, but you're still mid-season. There's still an opportunity in Niagara to get one or two more apple scabs. You're at 49%, going to 63. There's enough for a 40%, and I don't trust this weather not to dump a whole bunch of rain on us for another day. I feel like the nature has given us one, two, maybe three punch, and what it's bringing these cold freezes that are killing all of our crop, and then dumping tons of rain on us to give us a lot of disease inoculum that you'd have to deal with a little bit later. Maybe not this season if the crop is lost, but that'll build up. And now, if you have lost your crop, I would recommend only spraying at the big events. Do you have to spray at everything if you're not going to crop the plants? No. I would, if you've already lost your crop, I would go ahead and just spray every time it's just like 15 or 20. And then you'll probably be fine. And we'll talk a little bit more about specific recommendations for like, oh no, I've lost everything. But I want to not, I want to keep the trees kind of healthy. Scab, if it just goes wild, we'll make your trees a little bit impacted for next year. They'll defoliate early and you'll have some sort of poor return bloom and could impact winter hardiness. And with ambrosia beetles and all the other nonsense we have out there, we want healthy trees going into the fall. All right, I'll talk to you next week.